Hey, how's it going? We're going to talk about mold removal. I get so many questions about this, and it is a case-by-case basis on what building material specifically needs to be removed versus what can be cleaned and saved. First of all, mold remediation properly done is mold removal, okay? Mold remediation is not treating, spray and pray, some magic fogging solution, okay? If we liken mold to a microscopic plant or tree, which is basically what it is, and then it grows its colonies or forests, like I like to say, then you have to remove it to get it out. You can't, another analogy I use is if you have a Christmas tree in your house and you're getting rid of it in January, in order to get it out of the house, you would not spray some fogging solution on it, right? So the same thing with mold. If it's embedded and has kind of its root system called hyphae in the building material, then you want to get that out. And we'll just start with the most in-depth way of removal, and this is obvious. It's demolition and completely discarding. It's removing entirely the affected building material. That is mostly done with porous material, with sheetrock especially. If drywall gets visible mold on it, it's got to go. It's not cleanable, not savable, and after you remove the sheetrock, then you're dealing with framing or some sort of wood behind that most times in these homes. And that's when you can do a manual cleaning, which we'll talk about in a second. But with sheetrock, with porous items that have visible growth on it, you cannot effectively remove the root system of that mold out of it. So you discard it completely, and that's why these flood cuts happen that cut out baseboards and drywall and things and remove the more porous items that way. Also, a quick note about sheetrock: if it gets above 20% moisture content at any point, it's considered saturated and can't be cleaned, saved, or dried effectively then either. So it's just better to remove and replace that. All right, so now that we've discarded these items completely, what about wood? So that is a case by case, like I said. So if you've had a big roof leak and the roof sheathing is like, it's wood, but it's also like really rotted or there's a ton of water damage on it and you really can't clean and save that, then that's got to go. And that's where you need to have some help from a professional on, does this subfloor have to be ripped out as well? What's the return on our investment here versus, removing it entirely, and what all that's going to entail versus cleaning and saving it. If there's just some surface growth, like we see very commonly on framing, maybe let's say an unfinished basement that has that white, gray, greenish type of dusting on it, most times that's like an aspergillus or penicillium type of mold if you were to take a swab of it. So would you have to tear down like all the wood in your unfinished basement? Most times, no. You can do a manual cleaning, and this is in the IICRC S520 protocols that I refer to often, that you can clean and save the wood. So first, you'd HEPA vacuum that first layer off. You'd put maybe about a 12% peroxide or so solution on it, let it sit for a while, it'll bubble up, you clean it again. Maybe you can use some Benefect, potentially wire brushing or sanding to get about a 1/16 of an inch or so into the wood surfaces. That's you drawing up the root system out of the wood so you can clean and save the wood and not have to get rid of it completely. And this, if it's really embedded with chetomium or stachybotrys or some of these toxigenic materials, then you'll have to go much more in depth. And again, that's a different situation. But most times, wood can be cleaned and saved if it's not totally destroyed. What I like to say when cleaning wood is it's almost like taking a stain out of a carpet. It's going to take some elbow grease, and you're going to go a few times over until we get as much of the staining removed as possible. And again, the remediators should be doing this a few times over before we get a clearance test or inspection. After everything's been cleared, I recommend something called a clear encapsulant sealant. There's a company called Sentinel that does a 24/7. It's a yellow bucket that is a clear no VOC encapsulant, and it basically goes on like a clear coat paint that can go right on the wood, and that's an effective kind of final measure to cover our bases there. And finally, removal is a detailed cleaning. So when we're talking about mold being like a tree, you want to get the root system out. That's the extreme one and the full one. Then you get this, which is a bit more aggressive. And then we're left with dust or whatever microscopic leaves and pine needles, or what I call it, kind of settle on the surfaces. That's where we do this, what you've probably heard of like a small particulate cleaning, a detailed cleaning. Our goal is to get the area about as dust free as possible. And how do we do that? Through thorough HEPA vacuuming, a damp wipe down with a microfiber towel, and repeating as needed. So if you've got a really moldy situation, you've got a lot of microscopic history you're trying to get rid of, and really covering your bases due to certain sensitivities, you might want to repeat this process 2-3 times. It's very tedious. It can take a while, but it's smart to go methodically room by room to do this detailed cleaning, and also to introduce cross ventilation and air purification in the process, just to clean the areas you're going. So instead of, again, some magic solution, do I have to have the perfect cleaning solution? The important part is the dampness of this microfiber towel, not being sopping wet, but damp enough to pull the particulates off of the surface. That is removal, right? So if you had a bunch of leaves, we'll go back to that analogy, on the ground, it doesn't matter like what solution you're using. It matters that you get all of them up fully. And so microscopically, you put it down to a damp wipe down with a microfiber towel, and you HEPA vacuum and do that HEPA sandwich a few times over, and that is also mold removal of whatever particulates and fragments are left behind there. So full removal, a little bit more aggressive cleaning and saving option, and then the final overall home cleaning, which we recommend often. With areas like carpets and things, it's tough to measure exactly how much mold specifically is in carpet. We've got to do a case-by-case basis there. If you're inheriting carpet of someone else, previous owner, it's better just to replace it. If you're like, oh, we just got carpet, 2-3 years ago, and we've been staying up to date with really cleaning it and keeping it HEPA vacuumed and stuff like that, then maybe you can clean and save that with a lot of HEPA vacuuming. But I wouldn't go, too over the top to try to save carpet. It's best, because that's a lot more porous, to just remove that and then do that detailed cleaning in that room that you're replacing the carpet. So hope this is helpful. I know there's a lot of confusion on mold removal, remediation, treating, fogging, all this stuff. And I just want you to know the 3 basic categories of mold removal, depending on the building material, the contamination, and this is what I help people with on one-on-one consults all the time, is assessing visually some of this stuff and then assigning based on those IICRC S520 protocols that do work if they're executed properly. So hope this helps. Thanks.